Welcome to the second and the last part of this podcast with Miss Gayatri Deshmukh, a former monk. And in this episode, we are discussing a lot about Bhagavad Gita, its breakdown, and about patience. Check out the timestamps in the description for better answers. And if you're new to this channel, then make sure you have subscribed the channel and like this video for more such amazing content and conversations. I will see you in the next video. Till then, enjoy the show. Ma'am, like I'm like this particular section I'm really excited about to talking about that is about Bhagavad Gita. And so like have you read Bhagavad Gita?
You should, Bhagavad Gita is not something you read. Bhagavad
Yes,
Gita
ma'am.
is something you practice.
Yes, ma'am. So, ma'am,
So, do I read Bhagavad Gita? No. Do I practice Bhagavad Gita? Yes.
ma'am, can you break Bhagavad Gita under 10-15 minutes for a college guy or girl so that वो easily समझ पाए? If it is possible, can you break down Bhagavad Gita for a college guy or girl?
I think that you will be able to do a better job with that. Let me ask you a few right questions again.
Sure, ma'am.
Where was Bhagavad Gita told? What is exactly Bhagavad Gita?
It's about the lessons Krishan ji taught Arjun. Like that
So, in
is what is
short,
it
it is a
about.
conversation between Krishna and Arjun.
That's what is about.
Correct? Someone was asking questions, someone was giving
Hmm.
answers. So, okay, we know that Bhagavad Gita is a conversation between Krishna and Arjun.
Hmm.
What was the nature of their relationship?
Krishan ji was his mentor and Arjun was a mentee.
Beyond that, before becoming a mentor and mentee, they were friends, they were
Hmm.
cousins.
Yes, ma'am. Uh-huh.
So,
Yes, ma'am.
we often learn a lot of things from our friends as well. So, before becoming his mentor, Krishna was Arjun's friend. So, he had a very good understanding of what Arjun was as a person.
Hmm.
Now, my second question to you. Where was Bhagavad Gita told? Where did this conversation happen?
Like
Did it happen under a tree?
Mahabharat, like
Did it happen in a classroom?
no, ma'am. No,
Did it happen in a luxury dinner table? Did it happen on a dinner table when they are sitting and having a conversation?
no, ma'am.
Where did it happen?
It doesn't happen on a particular place like the whole Mahabharat. Take different.
It happened right in the center of the battlefield.
Yes, ma'am. Hmm.
It happened right in the center of the battlefield just before the war of Mahabharat began.
Hmm.
What happened exactly? Arjun was on one side of the battlefield and he looked at the on the other side of the battlefield and he saw his teachers, he saw his grandfather, he saw his siblings on the other side of the battlefield,
Hmm.
and he became nervous. He
Hmm.
became uncertain. And now he was not sure if he really wanted to go through with this war.
Hmm.
It was the time of decision making and he was being indecisive,
Hmm.
which is when he asked Krishna to take his chariot right in the center of the battlefield. And at the center of the battlefield happened a conversation between Arjun and Krishna.
Hmm.
And that particular conversation is known as Bhagavad Gita.
Hmm.
This particular conversation took place right in the center of battlefield. Every day when you go to office, every day when you go in the outside world and you have to make your decisions, you are in some or other battlefield.
Hmm.
And which is where Bhagavad Gita comes into play. Now I would like to ask you another question. When Krishna was answering Arjun's questions, how many people were listening to Krishna's answers at a time?
No one. Only Arjun was listening. If I'm.
Was he? There were approximately four people listening to Krishna's answers to Arjun. One, obviously Arjun, who was
Hmm.
right in front of Krishna at that time.
Hmm.
Second person who was listening was Sanjay, who was charioteer of Dhritarashtra, who was given Divya Drishti by uh, Maharishi Vyas.
Hmm.
He had an access to that place wherein he could listen to everything that Krishna was telling Arjun. The second person listening to Bhagavad Gita was Sanjay. Third person listening to Bhagavad Gita in lifetime was Dhritarashtra, the blind king, because Sanjay was telling him exactly what all was happening. And the fourth person who was listening to Bhagavad Gita was Rishi Vedvyas, who had Divya Drishti, that's why he could give it to Sanjay. So there were four people who were listening to Bhagavad Gita. And that is what happens in our real life as well. Whenever Bhagavad Gita is being told, there are four types of people listening to it. First type is Arjun, second type is Sanjay, third type is Dhritarashtra, and fourth type is Vyasa. Let us understand what are these types. Let us start with Dhritarashtra. Or rather, let's start with Arjun because it will make it easier. What was the position of Arjun when he was listening to Bhagavad Gita? He had surrendered himself to Krishna. And he knew that now he did not know what to do next. So he surrendered to Krishna and asked him for advice. So Arjun was willing to listen. He was willing to accept that, okay, I don't know this and I will accept what you are saying. And I will understand and accordingly make a decision. Second category was Dhritarashtra. Now, Arjun, when he was listening to Bhagavad Gita, he needed it. And he knew that he needed it. There is difference between needing and knowing that you need. Okay, so Arjun knew that he needed the advice. Dhritarashtra was in the worst possible position in his life. His 100 sons were on the battlefield. 101 sons. He had one bastard son. So he had 101 sons on the battlefield. One of his sons was going to fight on behalf of Pandavas. His entire family was going to be ruined in this war. So here he was one person who was in need of advice the most. But he did not know that he needs the advice. So even if he heard the Bhagavad Gita, it didn't make any difference to him. Because he didn't realize that he needed it. Third person listening to Bhagavad Gita, Sanjay, he was listening to Bhagavad Gita. Was he in need of listening to Bhagavad Gita? No, not at that point of time. Maybe sometime in future he might have benefited from listening to Bhagavad Gita. But still he was listening to it carefully because he anticipated that he might need this in future. Today he was not the one making the decision. But maybe sometime in future he might be in a position wherein he had to make decision. And he might face the same problem that Arjun was facing of being indecisive, what to do, because you choose either of the things and it is going to be destruction. It is going to be wrong. So he did not need it at that moment, but still he was listening carefully. And then the fourth one was Maharishi Vyas, who did not need it because he already knew it. Okay, and he was already implementing it on his own level. So in this entire picture, there were two people who actually needed it. One was Arjun and one was Dhritarashtra. Arjun listened to it, accepted it, thought about it, analyzed it, asked more questions about it, asked for more explanation, whereas Dhritarashtra completely denied the whole thing. He was in denial. He was in the state of denial. So when you start reading Bhagavad Gita, or when you look at Bhagavad Gita, you have to decide for yourself in what position you are in. You are listening to Bhagavad Gita as Arjun. You are listening to Bhagavad Gita as Dhritarashtra. You are listening to Bhagavad Gita as Sanjay, or you are listening to it as Vyas. If you are listening to it as Vyas, then it is more of a practice for you. If you're listening to it as Sanjay, wherein you don't need it immediately, but you are still reading it, listening to it, because you know at some point you're going to benefit from it. That is fine. If you are in Arjun state, nothing like it. You can implement it immediately. But if you are in the state of Dhritarashtra, then God help you. In fact, even God cannot help you, because in this situation, even God couldn't help Dhritarashtra.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
that is one
Hmm.
aspect of Bhagavad Gita. So you can practice it. You just need to identify who you are as a listener. And once you have identified yourself as a listener, jump into it, dive into it.
Hmm.
It's an ocean of knowledge. It will not let you down.
And how many times you have practiced it?
I practice it all the time. Just one caveat: the moment you start practicing Bhagavad Gita, people around you can find you troublesome.
Hmm.
Because once you start practicing Bhagavad Gita, you stop caring about all the validations from people. Because you know the ultimate validation is the one you're going to get in the court of law, in his court. So the moment you stop caring about the social validations, people find it a little troublesome, because you are doing something against the norms.
Hmm.
And that is why you get answers to all your questions in Bhagavad Gita.
Hmm. That's like very very deep answers. I must say, like it's a very deep. I haven't heard something like this before, ma'am. To be honest. Uh, so yes, ma'am. You want to say,
No, you can ask me a
ma'am, what
question if you
Bhagavad
want.
Gita says about luck, destiny, and work? Like also, what you think about this?
Luck, destiny, and work. It all revolves around the philosophy of karma. So we all listen to this particular shlok, which is Karmanyavaditaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma
Hmm.
karma phala heturvu mate sangostvo karmani.
Hmm.
Over here, कर्म करो फल की आशा मत रखो. Do your deeds. Don't expect
Hmm.
any fruit out of it.
Hmm.
What happens is, you this is not your first birth. You
Hmm.
have had several births.
Hmm.
So when you have taken this birth, it is not just the karma of this birth that you are suffering. You are also suffering the karma of your previous births. So when you
Hmm.
think that you are lucky, you have struck luck, is the time when God has showered His blessings upon you and paid you for all the good karma you have done in the past.
Hmm.
And when things are not in your favor and you start blaming the destiny, is the time when God is making you pay all the bad karma you have done in your previous lives or in your this life as well.
Hmm.
Because sometimes it is sanchit karma which has come from previous births, and sometimes it is immediate karma.
Hmm.
The karma can go into various zones.
Hmm.
And about this particular thing, Krishna also tells Arjun, Bahuni me vyatitani janmani tavacha Arjuna, tena aham veda sarvani natvam vetta param tapa. Which means, you and I will talk about luck and destiny because we don't know the truth. So that is what Krishna is telling Arjun. You and I both have had taken several births. I remember all of them, but you cannot remember all of them.
Hmm.
So someone like Krishna never questions destiny, or he never talks of luck, because he knows what his karma has been in past, and he knows what the fruits are going to be. If you're going to sow a seed of neem, you're not going to get mangoes. It is that kind of a thing.
Hmm.
Arjun, on the other hand, we are all in the situation of Arjun. We don't know what our karmas have been in previous births. So when something good happens for us, it is luck. And when something bad happens for us it is fate or destiny.
Hmm.
So that is what Bhagavad Gita says about work. Your fate and your destiny
Hmm.
or luck, it depends on your karma. Whatever karma you have done in past and what you're doing now.
As you talked about karma, one thing pop in my mind is that like अगर मैं किसी के साथ अच्छा कर रहा हूँ with the intention कि मेरे साथ भी अच्छा होगा, if I am having an intention behind my karma, then do we call this a karma? Like अगर मैं किसी का अच्छा तभी कर रहा हूँ ताकि मैं चाह रहा हूँ मेरे साथ भी अच्छा हो, तो should we call it karma or not? What do you
See,
think about this?
intentions is again another thing. Sometimes, philosophically, in ancient Indian philosophy, our gods have set a very weird examples of the karma. For instance, there was this one tribal man. He hated Lord Shiva.
Hmm.
His wife was a devotee of Lord Shiva and he hated Lord Shiva. He would curse them every now and then. Once he just got angry with his wife, had a fight with him because she was again worshipping Lord Shiva. He left the place. He
Hmm.
left the place and he started wandering in the woods just when storm came.
Hmm.
Storm came, so he climbed up on a tree. What he didn't realize is he had stepped on the Shivlingam to climb the tree. He did not do it purposely. It just happened. The Shivlinga was completely covered with the leaves. So he thought it was just a stone covered with
Hmm.
leaves. So he stepped on that stone and climbed up on the tree. And after climbing up on the tree, he had nothing to do except for cursing Lord Shiva. So that is what he did. He was on the tree of Belpatra. Belpatra is very, Lord Shiva loves Belpatra.
Hmm.
So what he would do is, he would take Lord Shiva's name, he would curse Lord Shiva and put that Belpatra down.
Hmm.
Every time he took Lord Shiva's name and put that Belpatra down, that Belpatra settled on Lord Shiva's lingam, which was right below him. That
Hmm.
entire night, this man was only cursing Lord Shiva
Hmm.
and throwing those Belpatra down without even realizing what he was doing.
Hmm.
But Lord Shiva took his actions into consideration and not his intentions. He just looked that, oh, this man has been taking my name for entire night and putting Belpatra on my lingam.
Hmm.
Lord Shiva came and blessed him.
Yes,
Lord
ma'am.
Shiva come and blessed him.
Hmm.
So when you talk about intentions, it also depends whether your intentions are destructive.
Hmm.
If you are doing something with an intention that you will benefit from it,
Hmm.
it's not a problem. But
Hmm.
if you're doing something with an intention to cause harm to someone else, then that is a karma.
Hmm.
Even thinking about it has become a karma.
Karma. I don't know. I don't know what to say. Like you have put it out so beautifully. And ma'am, earlier used to thought that karma is only restricted to the actions जो हम कर रहे हैं. But you told me that like it is also about the thoughts in the mind जो तुम्हारे thoughts सारे दिमाग में हैं. I haven't heard this something like this never before. So I'm really short of words to describe this answer, ma'am.
What goes around comes around. What goes around comes around.
Even it's in mind.
Yes, even if it's a mind. And I'll tell you, there is one more very beautiful thing that Krishna said to Arjun about karma. Because the question arises that if you're going to do your karma, sometimes it is going to be not right. Sometimes you have to do it even though you know that it is not right. Correct. If you end up punishing someone,
Hmm.
you know that by punishing that someone, you're going to cause someone else to hurt. For instance, if you punish
Hmm.
a child
Hmm.
for all the things he has done wrong, it is essential to punish that child. But in punishing that child, you are hurting his or her mother.
Hmm.
How are you going to do? What are you going to do about that?
Hmm.
About that, Bhagavan Krishna said to Arjun, Sahaja karma kampeya sadoshamati na tyaje sarvarambha hi doshena dhume nagni rivavdataha, which particularly means that if it is a natural karma, if it is a natural thing to be done,
Hmm.
you do it regardless of whether it is right or wrong.
Hmm.
And why? For instance, killing somebody is wrong, but if you are in a war, you don't have an option. The most
Hmm.
obvious thing is to kill the person in front of you. So that is what
Exactly.
Krishna is saying, that if it is your sahaja karma, if it is your very natural karma, the
Hmm.
effortless karma,
Hmm.
then you should do it regardless of what the results are, because every karma has some or other dosh in it. Dosh as in problem in it.
Hmm.
What kind of a problem it has? Just like fire, in its purest form will have smoke, every karma will have some problem in it.
Hmm.
If something really good happens to you, it might give Jealousy, it might give rise to jealousy of mind of some other people.
Hmm.
So without intending, you have entered into a karma giving rise to
Hmm.
jealousy in some other people.
Hmm.
You are not intending it, but it's just happening.
Hmm.
So that is what Bhagavan Krishna is saying is, if it's an effortless karma, do it, regardless of the results. Because fire, whether it is the fire in a garbage or whether it's fire in the pure Agni Kund,
Hmm.
there will be smoke.
There will be
The
smoke.
quality of smoke will differ. The quality of smoke will differ, but smoke will definitely be there.
Oh man, no man. Well, like I don't know what to say. Like I haven't expected such deep, immense, such beautiful answers, and I'm really short of words. Ma'am, what's your favorite shlok from Gita? Like you were saying something. Yes, ma'am.
No, I was just going to say that I'm happy that I have been of some help. Even if one youngster decides to go beyond this social validation after listening to this
Exactly.
podcast, then I think we have achieved what we were always meant to achieve.
Yes, ma'am.
And as far as my favorite shloka is concerned, I there is a combination of these two shlokas that I like.
Hmm.
One shloka is Vasansi jirnani yatha vihaya navani grihnati naro prani तथा शरीराणि विहाय जीर्णानि अन्यानि sayati navani dehi, wherein Bhagwan Krishna is telling him that this body is like the clothes that we wear.
Hmm.
These are the clothes that our body is
Hmm.
wearing, and our body is
Hmm.
the clothes for our soul.
Soul. Hmm.
So what do you do? What do you do when your clothes are like worn off
Hmm.
and they become old? What do? You discard them.
Hmm.
Similarly, when this body becomes old, the soul discards it and takes new body.
Hmm.
Exactly the way we do it with our clothes.
Hmm.
So ultimately, I like this shlok because it keeps on reminding me that this
Hmm.
is just clothes
It's
for my
just a
soul. This is
cloth.
not eternity. This
Hmm.
is not eternity. I respect this
Hmm.
for for clothing my soul in a beautiful manner. I respect it, but I don't overindulge in it.
Hmm.
I don't get over attached to it. Second shloka is Nainam chindanti shastrani, Nainam dahati pavakaha, na chainam vedayantyapo, na shoshayati marutaha.
Hmm.
Which means the soul is eternal.
Hmm.
It cannot become wet with water, it cannot be dried with winds, it cannot be burnt with fire, and it cannot be killed with a knife
Hmm.
or any weapon because the soul is eternal.
Hmm.
So I have to always remind myself that I don't have to get entangled in this whole thing if
Hmm.
it is temporary. I have to just move
Hmm.
on and understand that the journey is longer
Hmm.
than what I can see right now. And it was during this particular thing that the philosophy of Bhagavad Gita, Adi Shankaracharya gave this particular word, he came up with this particular phrase, Brahma Satya Jagat Mithya, which means the ultimate truth is that the whole world is illusion.
Hmm.
So even he had an excellent sense of humor. Once he was traveling with his disciples, and while they were traveling, a white elephant started running towards him.
Hmm.
Like there was this white. They were in
Hmm.
the forest. They were walking in the forest. So there was this white elephant who was running towards all
Hmm.
of them. So Adi Shankaracharya had, just instructed all his disciples to climb upon trees.
Hmm.
So all of them climbed upon trees quickly. After the elephant had passed, they all climbed down. And then the disciple decided to tease his guru, Adi Shankaracharya. This disciple asked him, Guruji, you say Brahma Satya Jagat
Hmm.
Mithya. You say that the world is illusion. If the world is illusion, then that elephant was also an
Hmm.
illusion. If that elephant was an illusion, why were you scared?
Hmm.
It was a very valid question. It was a very valid question. Then Adi Shankaracharya replied to him, you are absolutely right, my dear
Hmm.
student. This entire universe is an illusion. That elephant was an
Hmm.
illusion. And me getting scared was also an illusion. And I would like to close this particular thought with what we started about relationships. World is an illusion. Your feelings towards that person are also an illusion. Enjoy them. Don't get lost in them or entangled in them. Don't get stuck in them. Know that they are illusion. It's all Maya. Fine. Enjoy it. There is no harm in enjoying it. Problem is getting stuck in it.
All the answers of yours need to be heard like 4, 5, 10 times to deeply understand it. Ma'am,
I hope I simplified them. I really
no,
hope I
no, ma'am.
simplified
Like
them.
I don't. I'm really short of words. Like this podcast will be one of the having a massive value on the podcast I have till now. I can say that after having a convo with you, ma'am.
I had a lot of fun talking with you as
I
well. You had some really very intelligent questions and relevant ones.
Ma'am, I personally believe that those people who took this spiritual journey
Okay.
built a lot of patience in them. और अगर उनमें पहले से पेशेंस नहीं था तो दैट देन दिस जर्नी उनको पेशेंस बना देती है, उनमें पेशेंस बिल्ड कर देती है. And when it comes to patience, I think this is something that we as students lack the most. So I want to ask you that how to build patience, how can you practice patience, like how what you did on your journey that
Honestly
helped you.
speaking, honestly speaking, impatience is one of my qualities. Even when I was in spiritual journey, I have been a very impatient person. After the spiritual journey, obviously my patience has increased, but still not to satisfactory level. I'm still working on my patience. One trick of working on your patience is to remind yourself that this does not affect me in any way.
Can you give example?
Having patience with someone, yes, having patience with someone means what? That person is acting like a stupid and you lose your patience, correct? You just have to constantly remind yourself that that person's stupidity is no way your problem. For example, if you are to talk about college times, if you are with your friends, you will have one friend who will unnecessarily indulge into crazy tactics on the road, and you are feeling embarrassed. Why would you do that? What will people think about us and everything? Correct? Sometimes you always, in every group, there is this one person who will end up embarrassing you in a public place. And and there will always be one person who will lose his patience and fight with that person. So the person who is losing the patience has to ask himself, how is his stupidity bothering me? Is it poking holes in my body? Or is it making me look bad in front of anybody? If not, let him be. How does it matter to you? You have to detach yourself. You have to detach yourself from as many things as possible to become patient.
And this up.
The more things you get attached with, the more things you get attached with, more impatient you become because you feel like the responsibility of whole world is on you,
Exactly.
on your shoulders. The moment you detach yourself, you know that the responsibility is not on my shoulders. And that things are going to be as they are going to be or as they are expected to be.
This is something that मैं खुद इसमें बहुत बुरा हूँ when it comes to patience. Like I know that the goals I want to reach will took 10 or 15 years, or I can say 20 years, but मेरा mind बोलता रहता नहीं, you have to achieve this right now. So and it creates a lot of mental pressure also. And you said very very beautifully that if you're on the right path, yes ma'am.
Everybody has a different career plan. For example, if you become an engineer, you will graduate at the age of 22. You will be a postgraduate at the age of 24. And you will be earning good amount of money at the age of 25. I mean, by the age of 25, you will be settled. If you are a doctor, poor you will barely be graduated by the time you turn 25. And after that, you have to go for the specialty for next 2 or 3 years
Mm.
after your internships and
Mm.
everything. So by the time a doctor comes out as a graduate, that person will be 28 or 29 years old.
Mm.
More than
More than
27. Okay, more than 27. Again, comparing to an engineer and a doctor again. After graduating, an engineer has a salaried job
mm.
or he has a contract
Mm.
based job. So he does performs a job and he gets
Mm.
paid. With time, the payments go on increasing.
Mm.
So by the time that this engineer is 30, he is in a position to get a flat, get an apartment or a house of his own. A doctor, on the other hand, after becoming a doctor at 27 or 28 years old, now this person has to invest time in studying under other doctor, which will
Mm.
take another 2 or 3 years for him or her to make a name for himself or herself in the field. That yes, this person knows
Mm.
something. Then that person has to spend time in earning trust of the people that yes, this doctor is good and knows things.
Mm.
And then the doctor will get a settled practice. Who is right and who is wrong?
Like that's a
Exactly. There are entirely two
hmm,
different careers, and both the careers have an entirely different
careers.
career clock. You cannot
Hmm.
compare. What ultimately matters is whether you are happy with what you are doing,
Hmm.
whether you are happy with where you are. And how can you be happy where you are? You just have to ask yourself one question. Am I on the right track? Am I stepping forward in the direction which will lead me to my goal?
Hmm.
If you are on the path, be happy because someday you will reach your goal. And that is how you build patience.
That's something I need to hear. Thank you so much, ma'am, for this answer. Ma'am, on every podcast of mine, I have this one last question which I ask every guest of mine, and I'm really looking forward to have your thoughts on this question because of all the conversation we had till now. So, what is that one thing you want students to learn beyond school? What is that one thing?
If there is one thing that I would love the students to learn beyond school, honestly, in my opinion, at this point of time, you have to learn everything beyond school. You have to learn everything beyond school because looking at your textbooks, politicians decide what history you will study.
Mm.
United Nations decide what geography you will study.
Mm.
You, you have the scientists deciding what science you will
Mm.
study. You have scientists telling what maths you will
Mm.
study. Ultimately, you have this set of people who are deciding what you should
Mm.
study. And they are not teaching you everything in its honest form.
Mm.
So, as a student, you have to learn everything beyond school. Personally, I have been a teacher to ninth and 10th
Mm.
students. So I know the
Mm.
syllabus. And that is why I'm so confident when I'm telling you that you have to look beyond your school for everything. You have your World War One, you have your World War Two,
Mm.
but you are taught these things from a perspective of somebody.
Mm.
You have to find out the neutral aspect of
Mm.
it. You don't have to look at Hitler as a villain always. You can look at Hitler from a third person perspective, and then you can identify where things went wrong.
Mm.
Because regardless of whatever happened under the rule of Hitler, one thing remains. Under the rule of Hitler, administration was fine.
Mm.
Things started to go wrong when Hitler started delegating his responsibilities to people
Mm.
and did not ask for the
Results.
result. He did not make those people answerable to him.
Mm.
So instead of looking at Hitler as a villain, you can as well look at Hitler as an example of what can happen if you blindly trust people.
Mm.
What can happen if you just do away with your responsibility and indulge into enjoyment? That is what you can learn from that person.
Mm.
That is why you have to look beyond your school for everything because whatever you are being taught in the school is a syllabus set by a set of people. After 10 years, those set of people will change, the syllabus will also
Exactly.
change. So technically, whatever you're studying in school, it doesn't really hold much importance in life. What holds importance in life is that you find out what is what and from where you can learn something. For instance, Winston Churchill was a hero of World War II. But as an Indian, can we call him a hero? He was solely responsible for 7.5 lakh deaths in Bengal famines because he decided that the all the grains had to be in store for future rather than giving them to the people and letting them live. So the hero for World War II for the Allied powers was not exactly a hero for Indians, was he?
Hmm.
Don't blindly just believe what you are told. Do your research, do your research well, and then decide for yourself whether or not these things are this, whether or not this is how it was projected. Now, if you ask me whether Winston Churchill was a hero or a villain, it is not a black and white
Hmm.
answer. There were some things he did really good for his own
Hmm.
country, but then he was never responsible for my
Exactly.
country. My country is my responsibility. I cannot go on blaming other people for all the wrongs inflicted upon me. I have to sometime, at some point, I have to take responsibility that I was not strong enough to fight them at that time.
Hmm.
So here again, we have to at one point take this decision that I'm going to stop blaming and I'm going to start taking the
Responsibility.
responsibility. And when you do that, you stop looking at people as a hero or a villain.
Hmm.
You start looking at them as people, and people make
Hmm.
mistakes. The bigger the person, the bigger the
Mistakes.
mistake.
Oh man, what a line. I ask this question almost with every guest of mine, and trust me, ma'am, this is one of the this is the best answers I have heard till now. Because every guest of mine, like I respect those answers. They told about mental, you should be emotionally strong, you should be do that, and I respect those answers. But this is something I never even imagined of this. So like I completely blanked after listening your answers. Thank you so much, ma'am, for being on the show. It was lovely, lovely talking to you. And I think it is one of the, not one of the, I will say, it's the best podcast I have recorded till now with someone like you. So I'm really, really honored to have you on the show, and it was a lovely conversation. And I personally believe that it will help a lot to to the students who are gonna listen this. Thank you so much, ma'am. It really means the world to me.
So it was wonderful chatting with you, Unmeet, and keep in touch. Yes. Bye.